Have you thought about building a drawer system for your Jeep? Let's go and take a look and see how I built this one. Hi, welcome to Design Build Workshop. I'm Patrick, and today we're going to look at designing and building a drawer system for the back of your Jeep. The design of any project always starts with an idea, so now we have to give it form. Let's start with the constraints that the drawer project will present. Number one, available space. Obviously, the main constraint here is the space we'll have available to work with. I want to create a level deck from the tailgate almost to the back of the front seats. I also want to try to sneak in a couple of 10-inch subwoofers for the next build. So that will roughly determine the overall height and depth, front to back, of the box. Number two, how to utilize the space available. With that determined, we'll need to decide how to divide up the space created from the previous step. In this model, I had designed a single drawer, but ultimately decided to go with two drawers. Okay, let's take a look at some of the construction. The first part of our build process is to remove the seats, carpeting, and seat belts. Don't get rid of any of these items as you can sell them on the marketplace pretty easily. Give the tub a good cleaning as there will be lots of dirt and debris under the carpet. I used 3/4 inch plywood for the base plate. It works well because it has enough thickness to screw into and it lies higher than the raised loops in the bed. Trim in place one board at a time. I started in the back, making sure I had clearance when the tailgate was closed. You'll notice I had to notch some of the panels to work around those loops I talked about earlier. This will actually help the base plate be more secure. Once you have all the boards cut and dry fitted, I use pocket screws to assemble the plate. Make sure if you build a two-drawer system, as I have, you include a center board to support the vertical divider between the drawers. Once you have the base plate assembled, place it back in the bed. Take a 4-foot straight edge and run it from the top of the fender well to the top of the other fender well. Now you can measure up from the base plate to the bottom of the straight edge to give you the height of the vertical boards for the box. Now that we know the height, we can cut the 3 long panels that will form the sides of the box and middle support. Make sure to leave them 3/4 of an inch short to leave room for the front plate to mount to the base plate. We'll need to create a template for where the front of the box will meet the outer edges of the tub. Take a piece of cardboard and cut it to the height of the 3 support boards. Place the cardboard where the front of the plate will go and tape it in place. Now use a piece of scrap and attach a pencil to it. Keeping the end of the stick in contact with the tub wall, transfer the shape onto the cardboard. Make sure the stick stays parallel to the base of the box as you transfer the shape. Trace the template onto the ends of the front plate. Cut the front plate ends using a jigsaw or a bandsaw. So this is a pocket hole system. There's a couple companies that make these, but they're really simple to use and it's a really good way to attach, especially 3/4 inch plywood to more 3/4 inch plywood when you're building a box or a plate or whatever it is. Basically simply clamp this piece down. This is the fixture that will allow you to use this drill bit. You'll take the drill bit, get it lined up, go ahead and drill your hole, just like that. So once those holes are drilled, go ahead and remove the jig, clean out the area, place your other piece that you want to attach to it, and then you're going to see that you've got a driver here, which is a square driver, and you've got these screws, which are a square head, and notice that there's a flat surface to it instead of being tapered. That's so that when you drive the screw in, it doesn't split the wood. Let's go ahead and drive some of these in here. One. Two. All right, I'll admit it. I went a little overboard with the pocket screws on the drawer units. My only excuse is that I knew I planned on carrying a lot of weight in those drawers. When measuring for the drawer width, make sure to take into consideration the thickness of the drawer sliders. You'll notice that we need to notch the box walls and the drawers to allow their proper operation. The notch on the left is for the center brake light contact point, and the notch on the right is for the tailgate latch. As you progress in your build, always test fit and dry assemble the parts to make sure everything will function properly before you glue them up. Attaching these heavy drawer sliders is a little tricky, as they don't come apart like standard drawer sliders. You will need to take your time and take very careful measurements of the sliders' holes for mounting. It's easier doing this work outside of the Jeep, so just remove the whole assembly and do all this work on some sawhorses. Notice in this build the left side of the left drawer is about an inch lower than the other side of the drawer. This is for clearance of the latch post, so the drawer can slide out. So I want to talk a bit about the slider. They're a little bit different than your standard drawer sliders. Number one, they're really heavy. This one is particularly rated around 250 pounds. The ones I have in the actual drawer slider are a little bit longer than this. They're 40 inches long. They're rated at 500 pounds. The problem is standard drawer sliders, if you've ever dealt with them before, like in a drawer system, when you slide it all the way open, there's usually a little tab that you can actually pull apart the slider, so you can separate the part that goes against the drawer and the part that goes against the cabinet. However, in these really heavy sliders, at least the ones I've gotten, there's no tab. So there's no way to actually separate the two pieces. So you've got to be really careful when you are putting these together, because there's no way to separately mount this to the wall and this section to the drawer. So you've got to take really careful measurements, make sure you're marking all these on the drawer, on the wall side, and then of course you can just mount these directly to the drawer itself. That's not so hard, but one side you're going to have to do just with measurements. All right, at this point, the build is really starting to come together. The next step is to cut and attach the deck. Because we have been checking our measurements along the way and have been dry fitting during the build, the deck should rest evenly on the fender wells and the 3 uprights of the box. You'll need to trim some sections of the deck where it meets the tailgate for it to close without interference. Because the rear of the Jeep is wider than 4 feet, you'll need to add some 3/4 inch filler pieces on either side of the deck. These will support the 1/4 inch luan in the next step. The luan will help give us a smooth and consistent surface, as well as give us the opportunity to make our gaps a little more even with the tailgate. I use smaller pieces as I was working with scraps. Make sure if you use staples, they are below the surface so you don't feel them. Originally, I went with a laminate flooring option for the deck surface. However, the PVC that most laminates are made from tend to expand in the heat and cause buckling. So I went with what I currently have, which is a rubber mat material. I wanted to add a way I could tie down loose items on the deck, so the last thing I added was E-track, which is what they use on the inside of semi-trailers to secure loads. I found the E-track at Northern Tool. When building your drawer system, use stainless hardware to prevent any kind of corrosion. When I cut the notches in the drawers so they wouldn't interfere with the tailgate, I didn't just want to leave a gaping hole, so I decided to finish those openings. Most people are familiar with Bondo or body filler, but did you know that body filler works great with wood? If you're going to paint your drawers, as I did, body filler was a great way to smooth out all the inside corners and fill the radiuses I created when finishing the notched drawers. When complete, it really gives a clean look to the drawers. All right, so this is the finished build. Drawer system complete. As you can tell, the decking is different because I switched out that PVC flooring to rubber floor mat. I've got some trim on the outer edge here to kind of finish that off. I also trimmed out the drawers with aluminum flat bar. I've got some screws in here to kind of hold it in place, but I like the addition of the screws as well for an aesthetic look. The drawers work really nicely, pull out really well. Handles, I accidentally wire brushed trying to clean them up, and I took a lot of the coating off, so I'm probably going to have to redo those. But overall, I've been really happy with the build. So that wraps up the Jeep drawer system build. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them. If you liked the video, please give me a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel, please go ahead and do so. Hopefully I'll see you next week on Design Build Workshop.